The massive viewing screen in the Alliance Council chamber showed nothing but destruction. Dozens of sleek silver ships, once the pride of the Galactic Defense Force, now floated as broken husks in the cold void of space. Admiral Blake's hands gripped the podium tighter as he watched the recording for the 10th time that day. "This is the 4th fleet we've lost this month," he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. The gathered council members, representatives of over 200 peaceful species, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Their varied forms, from the gas-filled bubbles of the Mist People to the plant-like bodies of the Green Collective, all showed signs of stress in their own unique ways. The recording continued playing. Crystal-like ships, sharp and jagged, cut through the Alliance's defensive lines like they were made of paper. The Swarm, as they had come to be known, moved with perfect coordination. Their silicon-based technology made them immune to most conventional weapons, and their hive-mind mentality made them impossible to reason with. "Our weapons barely scratched their hulls," Blake continued, pausing the recording on a close-up of one of the crystalline ships. "Traditional energy weapons are reflected, and physical projectiles shatter against their outer shell without causing significant damage." A council member from the Mist People floated forward, their voice translated through the chamber's communication system. "Perhaps we should attempt peace talks again." Blake shook his head. "We've tried 17 times. They don't respond to any communication. They simply advance, consume resources, and expand. At their current rate, they'll reach the core worlds within 3 months." Panic spread through the chamber. The Alliance had known peace for so long that the concept of total war was foreign to most species. They were scientists, artists, and philosophers, not warriors. "There must be something we haven't tried," said the representative of the Green Collective, their leaf-like appendages trembling. "Some technology we haven't considered." Blake took a deep breath. What he was about to suggest would either save them all or get him stripped of his rank. "There might be one option we haven't considered." He pressed a button on his console, and a new image appeared on the screen. A blue and green planet, wrapped in swirling white clouds. "What is that?" asked several council members at once. "It's called Earth," Blake replied. "A planet we discovered centuries ago, but chose to quarantine. Its gravity is 1.5 times stronger than our standard. Its weather patterns are extreme. Its ecosystem is filled with predators. And its dominant species." He paused, bringing up an image of a human. "They're called humans. They evolved in these conditions, and not only survived but thrived." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Everyone knew about Deathworlds, planets too dangerous for normal habitation, but few had ever seen data about their inhabitants. "You can't be serious," the Mist Person exclaimed. "Deathworlders are too dangerous, too unpredictable. There's a reason we quarantine such worlds." Blake stood straighter. "Look at our situation. The Swarm is unlike anything we faced. They're stronger than our strongest ships, more resilient than our toughest armor. Maybe what we need isn't more advanced technology. Maybe we need something primitive, something unpredictable." He brought up more images, humans competing in sports, building cities, exploring their world. "These beings can lift twice their body weight, run for hours without stopping, and survive injuries that would kill most species. They're problem solvers, warriors by nature but capable of peace. They might be exactly what we need." The council chamber fell silent. The fear was still there, but now mixed with desperate hope. The head counselor, an ancient being of pure energy, spoke for the first time. "What you suggest goes against centuries of policy, Admiral Blake." But they looked at the images of destruction still floating on the other screens. "We are out of options. You have permission to make contact. But be warned, if these humans prove to be more dangerous than the Swarm, it will be on your head." Blake nodded solemnly. As he left the chamber, he couldn't help but smile. He had studied Earth for years in secret, fascinated by its inhabitants. Now, finally, he would meet one. He just hoped they were as remarkable as he believed them to be. After all, The fate of the galaxy might depend on it. Major Tom Wilson was chopping wood behind his cabin in the Montana wilderness when the sky lit up. At first, he thought it was another shooting star, but shooting stars don't stop midair and hover silently. He set down his axe, muscles tense from years of military training. 20 years of Special Forces experience told him this was something very different. The light grew brighter, and a gentle hum filled the air. Tom's dog, Rex, started barking at the strange object that was now clearly visible. A sleek, silver craft about the size of a small car. It descended slowly, landing in the clearing near his cabin with barely a sound. Well, Tom muttered to himself, this is new. He reached slowly for the axe, not out of fear but caution. Rex stood beside him, growling softly. A door appeared in the craft's smooth surface, sliding open with a soft hiss. Tom's grip on the axe tightened as two figures emerged. The first was tall and slim, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. The second was shorter and appeared to be made entirely of softly glowing energy contained within a transparent suit. Major Tom Wilson. The taller being spoke in perfect English, though its mouth didn't move. I am Admiral Blake of the Galactic Alliance, and we need your help. Tom raised an eyebrow. After everything he'd seen in his military career, somehow this wasn't the strangest thing he'd ever experienced. You're a long way from home, Admiral. Indeed we are, Blake replied. We've been watching Earth for centuries, keeping our distance due to your species' unique qualities. But now we face a threat that our technology cannot overcome. We need someone who thinks differently. Someone stronger. Tom let out a short laugh. And you picked an old soldier living in the woods. The glowing being stepped forward, its voice sounding like chimes in the wind. Your military records are impressive, Major Wilson. Your combat experience, leadership skills, and survival instincts are exactly what we need. Tom studied them carefully. Years of reading people told him they were desperate, afraid even. What's this threat you're talking about? Admiral Blake held up a small device, and suddenly the air was filled with holographic images of crystal ships destroying entire fleets. Tom watched intently as the scenes played out, his tactical mind already analyzing the patterns of attack. We call them the Swarm, Blake explained. Silicon-based life forms with crystalline technology. Our weapons can't damage their ships. Our defenses can't stop them. They've destroyed 4 fleets in the past month alone. Tom walked around the holograms, studying them from different angles. And you think humans can help? Why? Your species evolved on what we call a death world, the glowing being explained. Earth's gravity, weather, and predators would kill most sentient species. But humans, you adapted. You became stronger, more resilient. You think in ways we don't. You're warriors, Blake added. But you're also builders, inventors, problem solvers. You see solutions where we see only obstacles. Tom ran a hand through his graying hair. So you want me to what? Fight these crystal ships? We want you to help us assemble a team, Blake said. The best Earth has to offer. We'll provide the technology, but we need human instinct and strength to use it effectively. Tom looked back at his cabin. He'd come here seeking peace after years of combat, but something about this situation stirred the old fire in his blood. These beings had crossed space to find him, breaking their own rules because they were desperate. And those crystal ships, they reminded him too much of bullies he'd fought all his life. If I say yes, Tom said slowly, I pick my own team. No interference. Blake and the glowing being exchanged looks. Agreed, they said in unison. Tom nodded, a slight smile crossing his weathered face. Then let me get my gear. And fair warning, you might not like how we do things on Earth, but if you want to win this fight, you'll have to trust us. As Tom walked back to his cabin, Rex following loyally behind, he couldn't help but chuckle. Just when he thought he was done with combat, the universe literally came knocking at his door. But maybe that's what the universe needed right now. Someone who knew how to fight dirty when the situation called for it. And if there was one thing humans knew how to do, it was fighting dirty to survive. The Alliance's ship hummed quietly as it flew over Earth's major cities. Tom sat near a window, watching the lights below with a thoughtful expression. Inside his mind, he was already making a list of people he needed, warriors who weren't just strong, but smart. "We need our first stop to be London," Tom said, turning to Admiral Blake. "There's someone there who knows more about blowing things up than anyone else alive." The ship changed direction smoothly. Blake looked uncomfortable. "Your species' knowledge of explosives is concerning." Tom smiled. "Everything about us concerns you, Admiral. But right now, that's exactly what you need." They landed on a quiet rooftop in London. Jack Stone was exactly where Tom expected to find him, in his private workshop, surrounded by complex diagrams and testing equipment. The former demolitions expert looked up as Tom walked in, his scared face breaking into a broad grin. "Well, if it isn't the old wolf himself," Jack said, standing up from his workbench. "Last I heard, you were playing lumberjack in the mountains." "Plans change," Tom replied, then stepped aside to reveal Blake and the glowing being. Jack's eyes widened, but he didn't flinch. "We've got a job that needs your special touch." After showing Jack the holographic images of the swarm, his eyes lit up with professional interest. "Crystalline structures, you say?" He picked up a small device from his workbench. "You know, I've been working on some new resonance theories. Crystals have natural frequencies that can—" "That's exactly why we need you," Tom interrupted. "Pack your gear. We're not done recruiting." Their next stop was a research facility in Cape Town. Dr. Anna Reed was in the middle of a lecture about alien biology, ironically, teaching theories that were now outdated given the aliens standing in the room. She was also a combat medic who had served in the world's worst disaster zones. "So," she said, after hearing their pitch, "everything I've been teaching about alien life is wrong, and you want me to help fight a species made of living crystal." She smiled. "When do we start?" Marcus Cole was harder to convince. The retired Navy captain was teaching at a military academy, and his expertise in space warfare was all theoretical. But when Tom showed him the swarm's battle tactics, Marcus spent 3 hours pointing out patterns nobody else had noticed. "Their movements," he said, pointing at the hologram. "They're too perfect, too mathematical. That's their weakness. They don't understand chaos." He looked at Tom. "You need someone who can bring chaos to space warfare." "Exactly," Tom replied. "Welcome aboard." Last on their list was Lisa Gray. They found her in a mixed martial arts gym in Tokyo, teaching students how to take down opponents twice their size. Tom watched her demonstrate a throw that sent a huge man flying. "Your style would be very effective in low gravity," Blake commented as they approached her. Lisa barely blinked at the sight of aliens in her gym. After hearing about the swarm, she just nodded. "So you need someone who can fight in any condition, against opponents who aren't human." She cracked her knuckles. "Sounds fun." Back on the ship, Tom looked at his assembled team. Each of them was studying the alien technology with intense interest. Jack was already discussing crystal frequencies with the ship's engineers. Marcus was learning about space combat systems. Anna was analyzing alien medical equipment. Lisa was testing her moves in the ship's variable gravity chamber. "They're adapting faster than we expected," Blake said, watching them with a mixture of awe and concern. "That's what humans do," Tom replied. "We adapt, we overcome, we survive. Now, show us what we're really up against. No more holding back." Blake nodded slowly. "Very well. But I must warn you. The full situation is worse than what we initially showed you." "Good," Tom said, his teammates gathering around him. "We work best when the odds are against us." As the ship headed toward Alliance space, Earth grew smaller behind them. But for the first time since the swarm appeared, there was hope in the galaxy. They had called upon Deathworlders, and the Deathworlders had answered. The real question was the galaxy ready for human solutions to alien problems? The Alliance's main military base was a massive space station that curved like a silver crescent against the stars. As their ship docked, the human team got their first real look at the scale of alien civilization. Ships of all sizes and shapes moved in careful patterns around the station, their designs as varied as the species that built them. "Welcome to Starpoint Station," Blake announced, leading them through the docking bay. Other aliens stopped and stared at the humans, some even backing away. Try not to take offense at their reactions. You're the first humans most of them have ever seen. They look more scared of us than we are of them, Lisa observed, noticing how a group of tall, tentacled beings pressed themselves against a wall to avoid coming close. "Of course they are," Marcus said quietly. "Look at how they move. Their gravity must be much lower than Earth's. To them, we probably look like bulls in a china shop." They entered a large training room filled with advanced equipment. Technical officers were waiting with various pieces of alien technology laid out on tables. Tom noticed how the aliens' hands trembled slightly as they approached. "These are your combat suits," one of the technical officers explained, pointing to what looked like liquid metal pools on the first table. "They adapt to the user's body and enhance natural abilities." Jack stepped forward first, always eager to test new equipment. As he touched the liquid metal, it suddenly flowed up his arm and spread across his body, forming a sleek, form-fitting suit. His eyes widened in surprise. "This is different," he said, flexing his arms. Then he grinned. "I can feel it learning my movements. It's getting lighter, more responsive." He jumped experimentally and nearly hit the ceiling. "Whoa." The others quickly tried their suits. Anna immediately began asking detailed questions about the medical interfaces. Lisa started testing combat moves, her enhanced speed making her almost blur in motion. Marcus was already studying how the suit's systems could interface with ship controls. "Now for weapons," Blake said, leading them to another table. "These are standard-issue energy rifles, but we've modified them for human strength and reflexes." Tom picked up one of the rifles. It was lighter than it looked, and something about it felt off. "The balance is wrong," he said. "The weight distribution needs to match what we're used to, or our aim will be off." The technical officers looked surprised, but quickly began taking notes. Tom and his team spent the next hour suggesting modifications to various weapons and equipment. The aliens seemed amazed at how quickly the humans identified and solved problems their own species had never even noticed. "It's time for the combat simulation," Blake announced once they were properly equipped. The training room's walls shimmered and changed, creating a perfect holographic recreation of a swarm ship's interior. "Remember," the technical officer warned, "these simulations are based on real combat data. They can't physically harm you, but..." Lisa was already moving, her enhanced suit allowing her to dodge a crystal shard that shot from the wall. The rest of the team immediately spread out, falling into practiced formation. Years of combat experience kicked in. "Jack, what do you see?" Tom called out as they advanced. Jack was studying the crystalline structures with intense focus. "These formations, they're not random. They're growing in response to our presence. If I can figure out the right resonance frequency." "Multiple contacts," Marcus warned, his tactical training showing as he tracked movement patterns. "They're trying to surround us." Crystal warriors emerged from the walls, their bodies sharp and deadly. But they moved with that same mathematical precision Marcus had noticed in their ships. Predictable. Anna had her medical scanner out even as she took cover. "Their internal structure has weak points. Targeting data uploading to your suits now." The team moved like a well-oiled machine. Where the swarm was precise and predictable, the humans were chaotic and adaptive. They switched positions, changed tactics, and communicated with the bare minimum of words. Years of working in high-stress situations had taught them how to read each other's movements. The simulation ended with a success rating higher than any previous attempt by Alliance forces. Blake stared at the results in disbelief. This was supposed to be impossible. No one has ever survived that scenario. Maybe, Tom said, checking his team for signs of stress. You've been thinking about this the wrong way. You tried to fight precision with precision. Sometimes you need chaos to break the pattern. The technical officers were frantically updating their data. The other aliens in the observation deck were whispering among themselves, their fear now mixed with something new, hope. Tom looked at his team. They were all grinning, the thrill of combat still fresh in their veins. For the first time, they had a real sense of what they were up against. And more importantly, they knew they could win. The real fight hadn't even started yet, but the Deathworlders were already changing the game. # in Desperation, so we called a Deathworlder. Swarm ships detected at the edge of the Centauri system. The alarm echoed through Starpoint Station, sending aliens rushing to their battle stations. But in the modified training room, Tom's team remained calm. How many ships? Marcus asked, already studying the tactical display. 3 crystal-like vessels were visible, their sharp edges glinting in the starlight. Scout group, Blake confirmed. Perfect for a first engagement test. Tom looked at his team. After 2 weeks of intensive training, their combat suits now felt like second skin. Jack had modified their weapons with sonic resonators of his own design. Lisa had mastered zero-gravity combat moves that even the Alliance's best warriors couldn't follow. Anna had mapped every known weakness in the swarm's crystalline structure. Marcus had developed new battle tactics specifically for their enhanced human abilities. Time to earn our keep, Tom said simply. His team nodded. Their ship was smaller than standard Alliance vessels, but faster and more maneuverable. Marcus had insisted on the modifications, knowing they needed to match human reflexes and reaction times. As they approached the swarm scouts, Tom could feel the tension building. Remember, Jack said, checking his sonic equipment one last time. These crystals should shatter if we hit the right frequency. But we need to get close. That's where I come in, Lisa grinned, securing her close combat gear. The swarm noticed them. The crystal ships turned, their movements precise and geometric, just as they'd seen in the simulations. But this time it was real. They're charging weapons, Marcus reported. Standard attack pattern, just like we predicted. Execute planned chaos, Tom ordered. Their ship shot forward, moving in an erratic pattern that looked random but was actually carefully calculated by Marcus to confuse the swarm's mathematical attack predictions. Crystal shards larger than their ship fired from the enemy vessels, but none could hit their wildly maneuvering craft. Jack, start broadcasting, Tom commanded as they closed in on the nearest swarm ship. Jack activated his modified sonic transmitter. The crystalline surface of the enemy ship began to vibrate subtly. It's working. But we need more power. Anna, status of their internal structure. Scanning. Anna's fingers flew over her console, stress points appearing in their lower quadrant. They're trying to adapt their crystal structure, but they can't change fast enough. The first cracks appeared in the swarm ship's hull. The enemy vessel tried to retreat, its movements becoming less coordinated as Jack's sonic attack disrupted its crystalline systems. Lisa, you're up, Tom shouted. Lisa was already moving. In her modified suit, she launched herself through space toward the damaged section of the swarm ship. The aliens watching from Starpoint Station's command center gasped as a human deliberately left their ship in the middle of combat. But Lisa knew exactly what she was doing. Using her suit's enhanced strength and the lack of gravity to her advantage, she planted sonic charges at key points along the cracks. Her movements were fluid and precise, nothing like the mechanical patterns of the swarm. Charges set. Clear out, she called, pushing off the crystal surface and rocketing back to their ship. The moment their ship's airlock sealed, Jack triggered the charges. The combination of precisely placed explosives and sonic resonance did what no Alliance weapon had managed before. The swarm ship literally shattered into thousands of crystal fragments. The other 2 swarm vessels paused, as if processing this unexpected outcome. That moment of hesitation was all Marcus needed. He swung their ship around in a maneuver that would have crushed any normal crew under the G-forces, but the humans merely grunted with effort. 2 more sonic attacks, 2 more precise placements of charges, and soon 3 swarm ships were nothing but crystal debris floating in space. Mission accomplished, Tom reported back to Starpoint Station. The silence that answered them spoke volumes. Finally, Blake's voice came through, filled with awe. In all our battles, we've never. This is unprecedented, the Admiral stammered. Tom looked at his team. They were tired but satisfied. Jack was already analyzing data from his sonic weapons. Anna was studying readings of how the crystal ships had tried to adapt. Marcus was reviewing their attack pattern for improvements. Lysa was stretching, ready for more. This was just a test run, Tom said. Now we know our theories work. Time to take the fight to their main fleet. As their ship headed back to base, the humans couldn't help but smile. The swarm had never faced anything like them before, and now, for the first time, the Deathworlders had drawn first blood. The real war was about to begin. #in Desperation. So we called a Deathworlder. The main swarm fleet filled the view screen. Hundreds of crystal ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns. After a month of hit-and-run attacks on smaller groups, they had finally found the swarm's primary force. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. That's a lot of crystals to break, Jack said, checking his improved sonic weapons. The past month had taught them much about swarm technology, and they'd adapted their tactics accordingly. Tom studied the enemy formation from the command chair of their new ship, the Earth Force. After their success against the scout ships, the Alliance had built them a vessel to their exact specifications. It was smaller than the massive Alliance battleships, but packed with modifications designed specifically for human combat styles. Status report, Tom called out. Sonic resonators at full power, Jack replied. I found 3 new frequencies that should shatter their command structures. Medical systems ready, Anna added. I've uploaded the latest crystal weakness patterns to everyone's targeting systems. Combat suits are at 100%. Lisa checked her readouts. Close quarter teams are prepped for boarding actions. Alliance fleet is in position, Marcus reported from the tactical station. Though they're nervous about our plan. Tom understood their concern. The plan was insane by Alliance standards. But that's exactly why it might work. They would use the Alliance fleet as a distraction while the Earth Force struck directly at the swarm's command ship. Admiral Blake, Tom called over the comm. Are your ships ready? Ready, but Blake's voice wavered. This plan goes against all established combat doctrine. That's why it'll work, Tom assured him. The swarm adapts to patterns, so we'll give them chaos instead. The battle began with a massive energy barrage from the Alliance fleet. The swarm responded exactly as Marcus had predicted, their ships moving in perfect mathematical formations to return fire. Now, Tom ordered. The Earth Force shot forward, its engines pushing harder than any Alliance ship would dare. The humans, trained to handle high G-forces, merely tightened their restraints as they plunged toward the heart of the swarm fleet. Multiple hostiles tracking us, Marcus called out. Crystal shards the size of buses shot past their ship. Evasive pattern Delta, Tom commanded. The Earth Force moved erratically, following the random-seeming but carefully planned course Marcus had designed. They broke through the first line of swarm ships. Jack activated his sonic transmitters, and 3 enemy vessels shattered into sparkling dust. But the swarm was learning, their crystal structures already trying to adapt to the sonic frequencies. They're changing their resonance patterns, Jack warned. We need to get to the command ship fast. Lisa and her boarding team were already suited up. The command ship loomed ahead, larger than the others, its crystal surface more complex and intricate. Anna, find us a weak point, Tom ordered. Anna's sensors scanned the massive vessel. There, a structural flaw in their port sector. The crystal lattice is less dense there. The Earth Force rolled to avoid another barrage of crystal spears. then lined up with the weak point. They were taking hits now, their shields straining against impacts that would have destroyed any Alliance ship. "Boarding team, go," Tom commanded. Lisa and her squad launched from the ship's tubes, using their suits' thrusters to navigate through the chaos of battle. They carried specialized sonic charges, each one tuned to a different frequency. "We're on the hull," Lisa reported. "Beginning breach procedure." Inside the Earth Force, the rest of the crew fought to keep the swarm's attention. Jack cycled through sonic frequencies rapidly, keeping the enemy ships from adapting. Marcus executed maneuvers that pushed their ship to its limits. Anna monitored the structural integrity of both their vessel and the enemy's. "Breach successful." Lisa's voice crackled through the comm. "We're inside. This place is. It's like a crystal maze. The walls are alive." "Remember the plan," Tom said firmly. "Plant those charges at the designated points." The entire command structure shoaled. He was cut off as a massive crystal spear pierced their ship's shield, grazing the hull. Warning alarms blared. "Hull breach on Deck 3. Anna reported, sealing emergency bulkheads. "Lisa, you need to hurry," Tom urged. "We can't take much more of this." "Almost there," Lisa responded, her breathing heavy. "Just 2 more charges to." "Wait. Something's coming. Something big." Through Lisa's helmet camera, they saw it, a massive crystalline entity, clearly different from the drone-like warriors they'd fought before. This was the swarm's true form, its core intelligence. The final confrontation was about to begin. The crystalline entity towered over Lisa and her boarding team, its body shifting and changing like living diamond. Through their neural links, the entire crew of the Earth Force could see what Lisa saw, the true face of their enemy. "Well," Lisa said, her voice steady despite the situation, "I guess we found who we're looking for." The entity's surface rippled, forming patterns that translated into a booming voice. "Unusual beings. You fight differently, unpredictably, inefficiently. That's kind of our specialty," Lisa replied, subtly signaling her team to spread out. They still had 2 sonic charges to plant, and now they faced the swarm's leader itself. On the Earth Force, Tom quickly assessed the situation. Jack analyzed the thing's crystal structure. "Anna, get me vital points. Marcus, keep us close to that command ship no matter what." The entity struck first, crystal spears erupting from every surface. But Lisa and her team were ready, their Earth-born reflexes and enhanced suits allowing them to dodge in ways the mathematically minded swarm couldn't predict. "Structure analysis coming in," Jack reported. "It's complex." "Wait, Tom, it's like a giant living crystal tuning fork. The whole thing resonates at specific frequencies." "The charges," Tom realized. "Lisa, the charges you've already planted. Trigger them now." Lisa activated the sonic charges. The crystal corridors began to vibrate, and the entity recoiled, its perfect form distorting. The human team used this moment to plant another charge. "One more to go," Lisa called out, ducking under a crystal blade. The entity's voice boomed again, but this time with something new in its tone. "Uncertainty. Your species, you embrace chaos. Disorder. This is not efficient. Not perfect. Perfect isn't always better," Tom responded through Lisa's comlink. "Life isn't about perfection. It's about adaptation, about survival." The swarm leader struck again, this time with more force but less precision. Its attacks were becoming erratic, affected by the sonic vibrations and facing tactics it couldn't compute. Outside, the battle raged. The Alliance fleet held their position, keeping the swarm ships occupied while the Earth Force continued its close assault on the command ship. Marcus's piloting kept them alive, but their shields were failing. "Hull integrity at 40%, Anna reported. "We can't take much more." "Lisa, that last charge," Tom urged. "Working on it." Lisa's team fought their way through waves of crystal warriors, their movements unpredictable, their human instincts giving them an edge that pure logic couldn't counter. Finally, Lisa reached the perfect spot, a crucial junction in the command ship's structure. As she planted the final charge, the entity loomed over her. "Why do you fight?" it asked. "Your methods defy calculation. Your risks are unnecessary." Lisa smiled behind her helmet. "That's what makes us human." She activated the charge and pushed off the crystal surface. Now, Jack hit the control panel, sending out a complex series of sonic pulses tuned exactly to the resonant frequency of the entity's crystal structure. All the charges activated at once, their vibrations amplifying each other. The effect was immediate and devastating. Cracks appeared throughout the command ship. The entity's perfect form began to splinter. Through their neural links, the humans could see the beautiful and terrible sight of living crystal shattering like glass. "All teams, return to ship," Tom ordered. Lisa and her squad used their suits' thrusters at maximum power, racing through disintegrating crystal corridors. The moment they were aboard, Marcus pulled the Earth force away from the command ship. Behind them, the massive crystal vessel broke apart, its destruction sending a shockwave through the swarm fleet. Without their leader's guiding intelligence, the remaining ships fell into disarray. "Alliance fleet, attack now," Tom commanded. The Alliance ships surged forward, their weapons finally effective against the now uncoordinated swarm vessels. Hours later, as the last crystal ships were reduced to drifting fragments, Admiral Blake's voice came through the comm. We never imagined this was possible. You've saved the galaxy." Tom looked at his team, Jack examining data from the battle, Anna treating their wounds, Marcus calculating their success rate, Lisa already cleaning her gear for the next fight. They were tired, battered, but alive. More importantly, they had proved something to the galaxy. "We didn't just save it," Tom replied. "We showed you a new way to think about problems. Sometimes you need a little chaos to create order. Sometimes you need to embrace the unpredictable. And sometimes," Lisa added with a grin, "you just need to call a Deathworlder." The Alliance would never be the same. They had learned that perfection wasn't everything, that the unpredictable nature of humans wasn't just a danger, it was a strength. As the Earth force headed home, they knew this was just the beginning. The galaxy was a big place, full of threats and challenges. But now they knew exactly who to call when they needed help. The Deathworlders had earned their place among the stars.